Last night, congressional leaders released their plan to avoid a potential government shutdown this week with funding stopgaps, also known as continuing resolutions, or CR, to use the Washington term. This would keep the federal agencies funded into March. This comes at a time when alleged details over a border agreement were leaked over the weekend, causing Senate Republicans to remind people not to believe everything they read on the internet. So, what do we know? What might happen this week here in Washington? Well, joining me now to discuss the latest is Congressman August Pfluger. He serves on the House Homeland Security Committee and the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. He represents the 11th Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Pfluger, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to see you.
Tony, thanks for having me. Great to see you, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. Happy New Year to you as well. Now, you serve on the House Homeland Security Committee, so you are following the border negotiations quite closely, I'm sure. What can you tell us?
Well, not only are we following it, but we're also pushing. And, we have a new speaker. This is not a new situation. It's a tragic crisis now for over 3 years. And really, it's dire. I mean, over 9 million people. We have 100,000+ killed by fentanyl. Just the surge and the problem, the terror watch list matches that have happened, the chaos that's happening in our communities. So we've been pushing. I do believe the speaker when he says that he's going to make it a priority, but now is the time. Now is the time. We passed H.R. 2, one of the best border security bills in decades, and we expect that those provisions will be, once again, put on the president's desk, and we need leverage. Obviously, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the White House, but now it's time to use the power of the purse. That's exactly what we're pushing Speaker Mike Johnson to do.
Well, over the weekend, some of the details leaked out about the negotiations in the Senate, and I've had some conversations with some of the senators involved, but they've been pretty tight-lipped on the details because there's a lot of pushback from Democrats. But here's just a couple of things that emerged over the weekend. Increased green cards by 50,000 a year, work permits for adult children of H-1B holders, immediate work permits to every illegal alien released from custody. I mean, this looks like almost a wish list from the left. It wouldn't even appear to be any type of reform if we were not in such a chaotic situation at the border. But the House Speaker said, no way, not doing it.
Well, and I think, on our side of the equation, it really comes down to parole. It comes down to the ability for Border Patrol agents and other CBP officers to reject at the border those who are coming into our country illegally. And so when you look at security and immigration, yes, they're related, but they really are two separate things. Of course, the Democrats want some of those things, and maybe at a different time, in a different world, some of those things aren't bad. I know Senator James Lankford has been working extremely hard, and kudos to him working in a very difficult situation. For Speaker Mike Johnson, we need to give and put our best foot forward. That is H.R. 2. And then let's see where that leverage goes so that we can get something on security. First and foremost, on security. That is the line that we are going to continue to really try to hold in the House.
Is that your sense? Because what I'm hearing from what the Speaker is saying is that H.R. 2 is the starting. I mean, don't even talk to us unless that's what you're coming back to us with.
Well, it really is. And again, the provisions that you listed there really are immigration provisions. What we did in H.R. 2 is all about security. So they're different. Right. They are related. But the Speaker is right when he says H.R. 2 is our answer. We've come up with this. We passed it as a House. It's something that for 2 decades, the U.S. House has not been able to do. So that really is where we start. And that, I think, it still comes down to the political will. The Biden administration, Vice President Kamala Harris, they've done absolutely nothing to enforce the laws on the books. So even if we pass new laws, we have to have a clear-minded understanding of what they are going to do, a realistic view. Will they actually enforce new laws? And I think most of us know that that's going to be very difficult to compel them to do.
Well, and there's a ripple effect. I was just, the Associated Press just out with an article about the 3 million people in the immigration court system waiting for their court date. I mean, there's no way you're going to get to all that. I mean, it's about to implode the system. And then, of course, over the weekend here in D.C. again, another protest at the White House from pro-Palestinian demonstrators that nearly pushed in the fences and the gates around the White House. I mean, Is this not all connected?
Well, it certainly is. Look at October 7th, what happened in Israel. Myself serving in the military for over 2 decades, having fought in the Middle East, seeing the chaos that is ensuing. And if we don't think an attack like what happened in Israel on October 7th can happen right here on our soil, I think that we're asleep at the wheel. People like me and others have really been beating the drum on this to say not only is it time to support Israel, not only do they have the right to defend themselves, but this can happen here in our porous and open southern border, despite what Secretary Mayorkas has said that it is closed. It's not. Military age males, the majority of whom make up the 9 million people who have illegally entered this country, are coming in, and we don't know what their intentions are, and we don't know where they are, and they have a notice to appear, and 90% of them don't show up for their court date.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
I would describe it as insanity to have a border that wide open, knowing how dangerous the world is today, and even seeing, we had our own 9/11, but then we're seeing what's happening. 2020, we saw the rioting in our country. Now, I know that was domestic, but now we're seeing these pro-Hamas forces, these pro-Palestinian in communities all across this country. It's a ticking time bomb, and it's time to wake up to the realities here. Along those lines, Congressman Pfluger, I want to ask you this question because the end of this week, government funding runs out. What's ahead this week? Will there be an agreement?
Well, we have a staggered approach, and you're right that at the end of this week, on the 19th, the first tranche, the first wave of the laddered approach of government funding will run out. The proposal, as I am hearing and seeing, seems to be a March 1st and March 8th extension. We have in the House passed 80 to 85% of the appropriations bills, and the Senate has refused under Chuck Schumer to take up those bills and craft and do the negotiations on what we can actually come together on. So we will continue, I think, to buy some time, although I think most of us are really looking for that regular order to come back. Let's get a budget on time. Let's get appropriations bills passed on time. Let's cut the spending, which Mike Johnson is doing, and I applaud him for that. So we're in a pickle. And by the way, I don't have to remind the American public, but we only have a 2 to 3 seat majority. This is historic.
Right.
It's slim, and we need to get back to work.
$34 trillion in debt. You make a good point here when you talk about getting back to regular order, something you hadn't had in probably 2 decades. How do you find 85%, you somewhere around there, of the appropriations work has been done by the House, but the Senate hasn't? How do you force Chuck Schumer to do the hard work of the appropriations as opposed to using this government shutdown leverage to force the House to go along with a continuing resolution or omnibus?
Well, it's very difficult. He has the backing of the White House. Them doing nothing, especially in 2024 in an election year, is basically the best answer that they can come up with. So it is very difficult and get the leverage to force them to move. And it really comes down, to the House, the Republicans with a very slim majority being able to agree on certain things, which are hard. They're tough. We need to have those conversations, but we need to continue to send our solutions and our ideas of how to govern to the Senate and really put them on the spot. And once we, I think, get into that pattern, I think that there will be a necessity for them to answer, but otherwise they're not going to have to, and we need to put them on the spot, and it needs to happen now.
Agree. Time is running out. Congressman Pfluger, our time is also running out here on our segment. I want to thank you for joining us. Great to see you, and keep up the good work.
Tony, thanks for having me, and God bless.